You cannot deny this any longer.
I have done nothing wrong.
Your actions betray you.
Days later, he summoned her. His voice was hard, unfamiliar. You will leave my house. The words fell like a curse. She did not scream. She did not beg. She simply asked, what crime have I committed? The night the sacred iroko tree wept, the elders knew a home had been torn apart by pride, and the ancestors were already walking toward judgment, long before dawn, before the rooster tested its voice, before the hearts breathed smoke into the waking sky. The wind moved through Kolodi town like a grieving widow, wailing softly, carrying whispers from compound to compound. Dogs refused to sleep. Goats tugged at their ropes. In the great house of wealth that stood like a small kingdom within the kingdom, a woman wrapped in plain cloth stepped out through the gates with nothing but a calabash of clothes and a heart split clean down the middle. Ngozi Koneo by name, first wife, lawful wife. Wife blessed by ancestors and earth, and she was being sent away by her husband, Noah Koneo, the most handsome and wealthiest man in the eastern part of Nigeria, not for barrenness, not for betrayal, not for witchcraft, but because of a maid. The elders would later say that this was the moment the story turned from love to legend, from pride to punishment. Noah Koneo was born under a sky heavy with promise. When he arrived, the rain fell gently, not the wild rain of storms but the steady rain that blesses seed and soil. His father, a renowned pharmacist, lifted him toward the heavens and declared that no hunger would ever touch his son's household. The ancestors listened. Wealth followed Koneo like a loyal dog. By the time he reached adult, his handsomeness was spoken of as much as his riches. His face carried his father's face, strong jaw, calm eyes, skin that shine even under dust. Women admired him openly. Men compared themselves to him quietly. His voice was measured, confident, the kind that settled arguments before they fully rose, but the elders always warned, a beautiful calabash attracts careless hands. Ngozi became his wife not because of wealth alone, but because their ancestors approved. She came from a lineage of quiet strength women who built homes without noise and carried storms in silence. The marriage rites was performed. Drums spoke joy. The earth received libations. For many seasons. Was peaceful. Ngozi managed the household with wisdom. Servants respected her. Koneo prospered further, his barn swelling, his influence spreading like roots underground, but prosperity, like palm wine, turns sour if left unattended. The maid arrived during the season of abundance, Sonia by name. She came from a far village where stories walked faster than truth. She was young, striking in a sharp way, smiles that arrived too late. Her beauty was not gentle, it was edged. Ngozi noticed it immediately, not the beauty but the hunger behind it. Sonia watched Koneo as a hawk watches a careless chick. She listened more than she spoke. She learned the rhythms of the household, the weaknesses hidden behind routine. She praised when praise softened pride. She wept when tears bent sympathy, and Koneo, proud and unguarded, did not see the snare being woven at his feet. Slowly, carefully, she planted seeds. She told him that his wife was cold. She hinted that his wife disrespected him in private. She sighed that some women used herbs to bind a man's fortune. Each word was small. Together, they formed poison. Ngozi felt the shift before she understood it. Her husband's laughter grew rare. His eyes avoided hers. The house, once warm, carried a strange chill even under the sun. She confronted him gently, as tradition taught. My husband, she said one evening, kneeling respectfully, a pot does not crack without sound. Speak to me. He turned away. Silence answered her. That night, she dreamed of a snake sleeping in her cooking pot. The elders said dreams are letters from the unseen, and only fools tear them up unopened. Days later, he summoned her. His voice was hard, unfamiliar. You will leave my house. His words fell like a curse. She did not scream. She did not beg. She simply asked, what crime have I committed? His pride answered before truth could speak. Your presence brings unrest. Go. The servants watched in stunned silence as she packed what little she was allowed to take. No farewell rites. No elders consulted. No cleansing prayers. When she crossed the threshold, she walked into the night. From that moment, the house of Noah Koneo stood tall, but hollow, and the ancestors began to speak. Ngozi did not look back as she walked away from the house that had once known her laughter. The moon followed her like a silent witness, pale and watchful. Each step she took away from her husband's compound felt heavier than the last, as though the earth itself struggled to understand why a woman blessed was being pushed into the night without farewell rites. By the time the first cock crowed, she had reached the edge of Kolodi town where the houses thinned and the bush pressed close like a wall of listening ears. There she stopped, not because her legs failed her, but because the wind changed. It no longer talked, daughter of patience, curling around her shoulders. The ground you step on remembers you. She fell to her knees. Tears finally broke free, not loud, not dramatic, but steady, like rain soaking dry soil. She pressed her forehead to the earth and spoke words she had not spoken since childhood. Who know my name? She said. If I have erred, show me. If I have been wrong, guide me. I am tired, but I am not empty. The bush stirred. From the shadows emerged an old woman bent with age, her hair white as ash, her eyes bright as burning coals. She carried no staff, yet the ground seemed to rise to meet her steps. I have been waiting, the woman said. She did not ask who she was. Some truths arrive without introduction. You sent no messenger, she said softly. The old woman smiled, revealing teeth worn by time. Pain is a louder drum than words. The old woman led her deeper into the bush, to a clearing where a small hut stood alone, surrounded by symbols carved into stones and trees, marks of protection, balance, and warning. This is where broken wives come when men forget the weight of vows. The old woman said. Here, truth grows slowly. Ngozi stayed, days turned to weeks. Weeks turned to months. She learned things not taught in houses of wealth, how to listen to silence, how to read the language of dreams, how to separate truth from desire. The old woman taught her with riddles and tasks that seemed simple but cut deep. Why does fire obey some hands and burn others? Why does wealth blind the eyes faster than darkness? Why do snakes shed skin but not guilt? She answered poorly at first. Then better. Then with understanding. Meanwhile, in the great house she had left behind, the maid no longer bowed as deeply. Her voice grew confident. Her laughter filled spaces once reserved for quiet respect. She moved through the compound not as a servant, but as one measuring rooms for ownership. Corneo noticed, but too late. She cooked his meals herself now, watching his face closely as he ate. She praised him lavishly, feeding his pride until it swelled. She spoke softly of destiny, of men who deserved more than silent wives. You are meant for greater joy, she whispered one night as palm wine loosened his caution. Some women blocked the river instead of guiding it. Corneo listened. Soon, strange things began to happen. Rats gnawed through sacks of grain without being seen. Goats miscarried. The sacred shrine went dark twice in 1 week. When Corneo consulted diviner, the diviner refusing clear answers. A woman's tears still hang in your doorway, the diviner warned. Cleanse your house. He scoffed. Tears dry. The diviner shook his head. Not all. Sonia grew bold. She began wearing cloth meant only for wives. She sat where his wife once sat. She gave orders to servants who once feared Ngozi's quiet authority. When Corneo hesitated, she feigned illness, wept, accused unseen enemies. There are forces against us, she cried. Someone wants to take what we have. She did not Ngozi's name, she did not need to. The elders noticed the change in Corneo's house and called for counsel. He refused. Pride sealed his ears. Then the first true calamity struck. One night, during a feast meant to celebrate a new trade alliance, the drums cracked mid-beat. A sudden wind roared through the courtyard, extinguishing fires and scattering guests. From the shrine came a sound like breaking bones. By morning, his most trusted trader was found laying lifeless, found stiff beside the road, eyes wide with terror, no wounds upon him. Fear spread. Sonia urged secrecy. Enemies rejoice when weakness is shown, she said, but the land was already speaking. Far away, in the bush clearing, Ngozi dreamed. She saw a great house sinking slowly into earth, its pillars rotting from within. She saw a woman with a serpent's shadow coiled around her waist. She saw Corneo standing alone, calling her name, but his voice could not cross the distance. When she woke, the old woman was waiting. The river has turned, the old woman said. And it will soon overflow. Her heart ached. Must it? The old woman's eyes softened. That depends on truth. She handed Ngozi a small carved object, a twin-faced mask. One face remembers love, she said. The other reveals lies. When the time comes, you must choose which face to show the world. Back in Kolodi town, the unexpected happened. Sonia fell ill, not the kind of illness herbs could touch. She screamed at night, speaking in voices not her own. She clawed at her skin, shouting names no one recognized. The servants whispered of possession. Kaneo summoned healers. They failed. One night, Sonia sat upright, eyes glowing strangely, and laughed. You sent her away, she said in a voice layered with others. Now you will watch everything follow her. His courage finally cracked. Now they demanded reckoning. The night Sonia screamed the names of forgotten spirits, the earth under Noah Kaneo's compound shifted like a restless sleeper turning in uneasy dreams. He remembered his former wife cow. The moon hid its face behind thick clouds, ashamed to witness what pride had birthed. Servants huddled together, whispering prayers older than their own names. No one slept, not even the guards whose spears had never known fear. He stood alone in his inner chamber, hands shaking despite his wealth, despite his authority. The scream still echoed in his ears, layered voices tearing through the walls of his confidence. You sent her away, you broke the circle, you chose desire over covenant. He poured water into a bowl, but his reflection rippled wildly, refusing to settle. For the first time in many seasons, the richest man in Kolodi felt poor. When dawn finally arrived, it brought no peace. Sonia lay still on her bed, eyes open, breathing shallow. Her beauty had twisted, cheeks sunken, lips cracked, veins dark against her skin. When she spoke, it was no longer with honeyed charm but with bitterness sharpened by fear. They are angry, she said. They won't let me go. Kaneo swallowed. Who? She laughed weakly. Those you thought were silent. The healer arrived, burned herbs, chanted incantations, poured libations. This sickness does not live in flesh, the healer said at last. It lives in history. That word, history, hit him harder than any curse. He remembered the warnings he had ignored. The elders he had dismissed. The wife he had driven into the night without truth or ritual. Ngozi. Her name sat heavy on his tongue, tasting of regret. That same morning, far beyond the compound walls, Ngozi wakes with fire in her veins. The carved twin-faced mask lay beside her mat, warm as if freshly held. The old woman stood at the doorway of the hut, gazing toward the distant hills where Kolodi slept uneasily. The time has arrived, she said. She rose slowly. Her body felt stronger than it had in years, her spine straighter, her breath deeper. She wrapped herself in a cloth dyed with symbols of endurance and balance. Around her neck, the old woman tied a strand of cowries. You will not go as a beggar, the old woman said. You will go as memory returning to claim its voice. Ngozi hesitated. What if I am not welcomed? The old woman smiled sadly. Truth does not seek welcome. It seeks space. Before she could speak again, the old woman stepped back into the bush and vanished, like mist swallowed by sunlight. She began the journey home. Every step toward Kolodi town felt heavier than the last, not with fear, but with the weight of what awaited her. Along the road, she encountered signs that the land itself was restless, streams running backward for a breath before correcting themselves, birds flying in tight, frantic circles. Children pausing mid-play to stare at her as if recognizing something long forgotten. By the time she reached the outskirts of the kingdom, word had already spread. The banished wife walks again. The ancestors are escorting her. Something terrible is coming. At the compound, chaos reigned. Sonia's condition worsened. She spoke in riddles, cursed unseen enemies, begged for protection in one breath and mocked it in the next. At sunset, she convulsed violently, screaming a name that made the walls seem to shrink. Bandi. She screamed. Bandi was not the name of any living person. It was the name of a wandering spirit spoken of only in warning, a trickster spirit bound long ago for feeding on broken households and stolen vows. Bandi fell to his knees. What have I invited into my house? He cried. The diviner did not answer immediately. When he did, his voice carried sorrow rather than anger. You opened the door yourself. Before any further words could be spoken, a guard rushed in, breathless. She has returned, he said. Your wife? Silence fell like a burial cloth. Ngozi entered the compound without haste. The air around her felt cooler, steadier. Servants instinctively bowed. Even the restless wind paused. Kaneo looked at her and nearly wept. She placed the twin-faced mask before it. I have returned, she said, voice steady. Not to reclaim a house, but to restore balance. Sonia screamed, her body arched unnaturally, and when she spoke again, it was no longer her voice, so the forgotten wife returns, the voice sneered. Too late. Ngozi stood and faced her for the first time. Nothing is late in the eyes of truth, she replied. The elders gathered quickly, forming a circle. Drums were brought. Libations poured. The air thickened with ancestral presence. Marimi raised the mask. First, she showed the face of memory. She spoke of her marriage, of loyalty given without demand, of patience mistaken for weakness. Her words were not accusations, they were mirrors. Each sentence reflected something Kaneo had buried. His shoulders shook. Tears streamed freely now. Then she turned the mask. The face of revelation emerged. As she lifted it toward Sonia, the maid screamed a sound so sharp it felt like the tearing of cloth. The shadow peeled away. Before the gathered crowd, the truth unfolded like a nightmare made visible. The spirit bandy revealed itself fully, coiled around Sonia's body like a parasite. Its hunger was ancient, its laughter hollow. I feed where vows are broken, it hissed. Your house was ripe. Ngozi stepped forward, fearless. You fed on lies, she said. Now choke on truth. She slammed the mask to the earth, the ground shocked. A scream, final, furious, split the night. Then silence. Sonia collapsed, unconscious. The shadow dissolved like smoke struck by wind. The storm broke, rain fell, cleansing, heavy, merciful. He crawled forward, forehead pressed to the earth. I was blind, he whispered. Forgive me. Ngozi looked at him for a long time. Forgiveness is not a door you force open, she said. It is a road walked barefoot. He would lose half his wealth to restore balance, distributed to widows, orphans, and the hungry. He would step down from leadership for a season of humility. The house would be cleansed. The spirit banished. As for Ngozi, she was offered her place back. She refused. I will not return to a house that learned my worth only through loss, she said gently. Instead, she chose a new path, one of teaching, healing, and guiding women who had been silenced by pride. He watched her walk away a second time, but this time, he did not let pride speak. He let truth remain.